You wouldn't dare spank the children without asking me first, David said, his voice dangerously quiet. Grace turned around, her face pale. I didn't mean to upset you, Mr. Harrison. The children were being naughty and wouldn't stop fighting over the dollhouse. I just wanted to teach them a little lesson about sharing. David felt a surge of anger. It wasn't the first time Grace had taken it upon herself to discipline the kids, but since Catherine's death, he had become overprotective. Discipline was one thing, but he didn't like the idea of anyone laying a hand on his children. Not even his sister thought it was funny when she suggested a spanking. He had made it clear to everyone that his children were not to be touched without his consent. You know the rules, Grace. You should have called me. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. I thought it was an emergency. I should have known better than to go against your rules. David studied her for a moment, her head bowed in shame. On one hand, he knew she was only trying to help. On the other, he was furious. Was she trying to replace Catherine? David shook his head, pushing open the playroom door. Inside, Emma and Tommy were engrossed in the dollhouse. Their laughter filled the room, and David felt his anger dissipate. He knelt down beside them, trying to look stern. Emma, Tommy, what did I tell you about fighting? But Daddy, we weren't fighting anymore, Emma protested. We were playing house, and then Grace said we could take turns being mean so we wouldn't fight anymore. David looked at Grace, who had followed him into the room. He sighed. How could he stay mad at these kids? And more importantly, how could he stay mad at Grace? He knew she had only done what she thought was best. Thank you, Grace, for looking after them. He stood up and ruffled Emma's hair. Now why don't you go downstairs and get ready for dinner? I'll play with the kids for a while. Grace beamed, relief flooding her features. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Dinner will be ready in half an hour. After she left, David joined his children in playing house. It was the most fun he'd had in months. But as the evening wore on, he couldn't shake this nagging feeling that he was neglecting his children by spending so little time with them. He watched them sleep that night, each with a small bandage on their forehead where they had bumped their heads while playing. He knew he should be grateful to Grace for taking care of them, but all he could think about was how he had been a negligent father. He had been so caught up in his work, so afraid of losing Catherine again, that he had pushed everyone away. He had walls built high all around him, he realized, walls that kept him from being happy. He had to come down from that pedestal and be a proper father to his children, someone they could turn to when they had a boo-boo or needed some cheering up. But how could he do that? Grace had shown him the way. With a newfound determination, David got out of bed. He was going to talk to Grace, to apologize and ask her to move into the guest house on the property. He would pay her a generous salary, more than enough for her to support her family. If he had to, he would hire another nanny to take care of the children during the day, while he figured out how to balance fatherhood and business. When he walked into the kitchen, he saw Grace rummaging through the fridge. She turned around, startled, when she saw him. Grace, I wanted to apologize for earlier. I know you were just looking out for the kids, and I appreciate it. I just need to be the one to discipline them. She smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Of course, Mr. Harrison, I understand. Also, I wanted to ask you something. Would you be willing to move into the guest house? I can pay you more if you want, and I can hire someone else to help you during the day. Grace's smile faded, and she looked down at her feet. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison, but I have to decline. I have my reasons. David frowned. What could be more important than his children's happiness? I understand, he said finally when she still hadn't looked up. But please know that I value you, Grace. You'll always be welcome here. She nodded, and David, seeing that she wasn't going to elaborate, backed out of the kitchen, leaving Grace and her secret in the flickering light of the refrigerator. He pushed the door open and walked in. Emma, do you know what day it is today? Emma looked up at him with tearful eyes. It's Thursday, Daddy. And what does Thursday mean to you? Emma hesitated. It's the day Mommy went to heaven. David sank to his knees beside her. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't mean to upset you. It's okay, Daddy. I know you don't remember. You've been working so hard to take care of us. She reached out and touched his face. I'm proud of you, Daddy. You worked so hard to give us the life Mommy and I wanted. David pulled her into a tight hug. His little girl, so brave, so strong, yet only 8 years old. How had he not known? How had he not seen that she was trying to hold everything together? He looked over at Tommy, who was still playing with his blocks. A pang of guilt shot through him. He had missed so much. But he had worked hard to provide for them, hadn't he? He was doing everything for his kids. Or was he? He thought of Grace, the way she had taken it upon herself to be a second mother to these kids, to pick up the pieces when he couldn't. He owed her an apology, a big one. He got up, knelt before her, and said, "Grace, thank you for taking care of these kids, for being a great role model for them. And I'm sorry I haven't been there for them like I should have been." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "David, you've been through a lot, and I know you felt guilty, but you can't beat yourself up over this. It's not your fault. All you've done is try to provide for your family. I know, but I still feel like I've failed them." Grace reached out and touched his cheek. "No, you haven't. You may not remember every little thing, but they know you love them. They feel it." She stood up and looked down at the children playing on the floor. "Your daughter is a little mother hen, David. She takes care of everyone around her, even her daddy. But she's just a child too. She needs you to take care of her, to give her the childhood she deserves. Don't forget that." David nodded, understanding dawning on him. He had been so focused on providing for his kids that he had forgotten to be their dad. He hadn't taken the time to get to know them, to nurture their interests or be there for them emotionally. He looked down at the little boy playing with blocks. "What are you building, champ?" Tommy looked up, his eyes shining with pride. "A castle for Princess Emma." David smiled. Maybe he couldn't remember every moment, but that didn't mean he wasn't trying. He pulled his son into a hug. "You're a good boy, Tommy, and you're a good big sister, Emma." He looked at them both, his heart swelling with love. "Now let's build that castle." There once was a wealthy businessman named David Harrison who had it all except for the love of his family. Years ago, he had lost his wife, Catherine, and in an effort to keep his mind off the pain of losing her, he threw himself into his work, amassing a fortune and a reputation as a ruthless businessman. But his dedication to his career came at a cost. He had 2 children, 8-year-old Emma and 3-year-old Tommy, but he had been so consumed by his grief and work that he had neglected them, hiring a nanny named Grace to take care of them while he was away. One day, David stepped into the playroom, his throat tight with emotion he had been suppressing for years. Emma looked up, startled, her eyes wide with surprise and a flicker of hope. Tommy abandoned his blocks and toddled toward him with arms outstretched. "Daddy!" Tommy's joyful squeal pierced through David's carefully constructed walls. He scooped up his son, feeling how much heavier the boy had grown in just 3 weeks. Tommy wrapped his small arms around David's neck, and for the first time in months, David felt something crack open in his chest. Grace stood quietly, giving them space, but David caught her eye. "Grace, could we talk later? I think I need to understand some things better." Emma remained on the carpet, watching cautiously. David sat down beside her, still holding Tommy. "Emma, I heard what you said to Grace. I want you to know that I do love you and Tommy more than anything in this world." Emma's lower lip trembled. "Then why are you always gone? Why don't you want to spend time with us?" David took a shaky breath. "I thought I was protecting you by working hard, making sure you had everything you needed. But I see now that what you need most is something I've been too scared to give you." "What's that?" Emma whispered. "Me," David said simply. "Just me, being your dad." Emma threw her arms around his neck, and for the first time since he'd lost Catherine, David felt something other than loneliness, a sense of purpose that warmed him from the inside out. After dinner, David played board games with the children, their laughter echoing through the house, chasing away the silence that had lingered like a ghost for far too long. Before tucking them into bed, he read them stories, making funny voices and acting out silly scenes. As he brushed Tommy's hair, the little boy yawned sleepily. "Daddy, will you be here tomorrow?" David's heart clenched at the question. He had meant to cancel his trip for the next day, but he was afraid to admit that to his son. Of course, I'll be here, buddy. Every day. Tommy snuggled into his pillow. Okay, because I have something to show you at school tomorrow. David leaned down, kissing his son's forehead. I look forward to that. Then he turned to Emma, who was watching them with big, hopeful eyes. How about you? What can I help you with? Well, Emma began, then hesitated, suddenly shy. Can you help me with my science project? You know, since you're good at science stuff. David smiled, ruffled her hair. Of course, sweetheart. Anything you want. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Grace found David in the kitchen, making Tommy's favorite grilled cheese sandwiches, though they were slightly burned around the edges. Mr. Harrison, Grace said softly, those children have been waiting for you to come back to them. Not just physically, but emotionally. They need their father. David nodded, flipping another sandwich. I know. I've been so afraid of feeling the pain of losing Catherine that I stopped feeling anything at all. But Emma and Tommy deserve better. They deserve a father who shows up. Later that night, David made a decision. He called his assistant and cleared his schedule for the following week. He would find a way to make up for the lost time. He would find a way to be the father his children deserved. The next morning, David woke up early and got the children ready for school. He walked them to the bus stop and watched as they rode away. Then he came back home, a sense of calm settling over him. He had made the right decision. He knew that now. Standing in the doorway, watching his children sleep peacefully, David realized that true wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts or business deals. It was measured in moments like these, in the trust of two small children who just needed their father to love them enough to stay. And David Harrison was finally ready to give them that love. He was finally ready to be their father.